Welcome to another week of devotions from the Book of Belonging, Bible stories for kind and contemplative kids. Words by Mariko Clark, pictures by Rachel Eleanor. And today we'll read chapter 2, The Garden of Forgotten Names, which is a story that comes from Genesis 2 and 3 in the Bible. God planted a spectacular garden where Eve and Adam would live and work. A safe and lovely place of belonging. You see, God loved Eve and Adam and had a beautiful dream for them. I made you like me, so I want you to care for the gardens and the animals just as I would. God told Eve and God told Adam. There was much to learn about, and what a glad time God would have holding their hands and teaching them. Step by step, they would learn God's wisdom, which leads to a good and peaceful life. I belong with you, and you belong with me. Come, let me show you how to live. In the middle of their garden were two trees, the life tree and the good and bad knowledge tree. And God warned them, eat from any tree in the garden except for the good and bad knowledge tree. You are not ready for that knowledge yet. It will lead to death and destruction. God knew that having so much knowledge without learning would only hurt and harm them. God was protecting them from that harm and asking them to trust God's dream. So there they were, God, Eve, Adam, the fish, the birds, and all the animals all together, just as they belonged among the great green growing things. A grand garden party indeed. Imagine the delight in their days, climbing the fruit trees to gather food, flipping and swinging with the monkeys, lemurs, squirrels, and sloths, chattering at the rainbows of birds, caring for the plants and flowers as the honeybees and butterflies danced around their heads and as the rabbits tumbled around their feet with the tapirs and armadillos. Riding elephants, splashing into the rivers and swimming along the schools of fish, turtles, and platypuses, sleeping snuggled with ocelots, oryx, and capybaras as the crickets wheedled and God's spirit shushed among the bulrushes. They all had what they needed to live and flourish. They grew and learned from God, and it was good. Just as God had said. It was like a wild, happy childhood from a fairy dream. And you can see all that there was on these pages. But like most fairy tales, this story has a crisis, and it starts with a crafty talking snake. The snake approached Eve and Adam as they frolicked through the garden, wild and naked and free. Did God really say you couldn't eat from any tree in the garden? The snake asked. We eat from all the trees. Eve replied, well, except the one at the center. God told us it would lead to death. The snake laughed in a way that made Eve feel very silly and small. Death and doom? Oh, no. God is keeping things from you. The fruit won't make you die. It will make you smart like God, said the snake. The snake was very crafty. Crafty enough to know that you can tell a truth that's not the whole truth. Crafty enough to know that you can become smart without being wise. Eve and Adam were faced with a choice, one we all make over and over as we grow older and wiser. Will I trust who God says God is and who God says I am, or will I trust other names? What did God say over and over again during the wondrous creation song? It's good. They're very good. Good. They're just as they should be. But you are not as you should be, the snake had suggested. You're not smart enough. God is keeping things from you. You're not good. You don't have what you need for life and flourishing. The fruit will make you smart like God. Eve looked at the fruit. Somewhere in the distance, she heard the tumbling rabbits and the swinging monkeys. Good. They're just as they should be. The elephants splashed and the ocelots stretched. Good. They have everything they need. She stood in the garden with Adam and she reached out her hand and she chose. Eve ate the fruit. Adam ate the fruit. They didn't trust God. They believed what the snake said more than they believed what God said. They grabbed for God's gifts, snatching at knowledge instead of trusting God to teach them. It was like pressing fast forward on their lives. like turning 4 and then 44, like going to college right after kindergarten. All at once, they knew what God knows without walking with God. They missed out on the wonder of learning and living. Imagine the weight of their world. Suddenly, their precious garden home looked different. To see the snake. They saw the sharp teeth of their animal friends, the laughing sneer of the crafty snake, and their thoughts raced with worries. They looked different. They now felt silly being naked all the time and hurried to cover up the amazing bodies God created and called good. God came walking through the garden and called out, "You belong with me. Why aren't you with me?" "I was hiding from you. I trembled because I was naked," said Adam in a small voice. "Oh, my beloved children, who told you that you were naked?" God asked. "Did you eat from the one tree I told you to stay away from?" Adam pointed to Eve, who pointed to the snake. "We were tricked." "Things will be different now," God told them, lifting up their tiny faces. God knew that with knowledge would come choices, and what happened that day would happen again. Eve and Adam would choose to trust untrue names. They would forget that God said, "You are beloved, you are delightful, and you belong." That forgetting would bring pain, confusion, and destruction, the opposite of God's dream for them. But God created people to belong with God, and they always will. Places of belonging will always exist, places where heaven touches earth, places for humans to meet with God. Nothing can stop my love for you, my dream for you, God was reminding Eve and Adam. Just as the olive trees keep making olives, which contain the seed to more trees, which make more olives in an everlasting cycle, just as the elephants, the birds, the ocelot, and the oryx all birth young who grow up to birth more young in an everlasting cycle, Eve would have babies who would grow up to make more babies who would grow up to make more babies. Parents would care for those babies and teach them to walk close to God. Someday, God promised them, one of those babies will be the place where heaven meets earth once and for all. That baby will grow up to silence untrue voices and untrue names that convince you not to trust me. He will show you how to live with knowledge and wisdom. He will make all things new. It was time to go. God sent Eve and Adam out of the garden. They were made from the earth and filled with God's breath, which would always twist and tug inside them. They would grasp for goodness and beg for blessing. They would soar and stumble, but they would never be alone. They would learn wisdom by walking with God in the wide, wild world. Now, at the end of this, I get a little mindful moment for you to think for a second. Eve and Adam trusted the untrue names that the snake suggested more than they trusted God's good names for them. It seems to be part of our humanness to sometimes trust untrue names, and what we believe about who we are matters. It changes the way we act. That is why it's so important to know and trust God's names for us. Learning to trust God takes time. We need to learn who God is and what God's voice sounds like and what God's Spirit feels like. Throughout this whole book, you will learn many different names for God and many different names that God calls you. Let's remember some of those names. Close your eyes and take some deep belly breaths. Then put your hand over your heart like you're pressing on a name tag and repeat these names. I am loved. I belong with God. I am good. Say it. I am good. I am purposed. That means I have purpose. I am treasured. I am honored. I am never alone. I am protected. We learn to trust these names as we grow to know and trust God. And who is God? Well, that is something we spend our whole lives learning. God is so big and wonderful that none of our words can quite describe God. But here are some names that describe parts of God: Creator, gracious, merciful, patient, loving Father, Good Shepherd, Helper, Strong Tower, Mother Hen, Gentle Dove, Birthing Mother, Peace, Rescuer. These are just words that are in the Bible that tells us about God. Have a good week, my friends, and I'll see you on Sunday.